Advisor here at DelDOT in the Active Transportation and Community Connections. And I will formally introduce the staff here that manages the Transportation Alternatives Program, or TAP. Again, this is kind of an overview, and we're making a call for new project submissions. And if you're going to remember anything today, just remember February 14th before midnight. If you're interested in submitting a TAP application, email that application. We'll go over, where it is and some of the procedures. Email me or one of the staff here. I'll just say, I'm Mike Hahn, and I'll introduce the staff. Ladies first.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Valencic. I'm a planner here at DelDOT and one of the project managers for the TAP program. And I'm also the byway coordinator.
Good morning, Tom Felice. I work with the group working on TAP projects. Welcome, everybody.
And Tom also does the rec trails as well.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, Chip Knievel, also project manager with TAP, and Safe Routes to School coordinator.
Okay, so again, we introduced the staff here. If you do have any questions after this workshop overview, please contact one of us. These slides or the presentations are up on the DelDOT website. So everything here are live links. So again, you'll email one of us if you don't already have our email, or you can give us a phone call. We gave the general number rather than each specific line, but dial that 760-2273. Right below that, there are the relevant websites. Again, if you go on the DelDOT website, the presentation slides are all here, as well as this information too. We got the DelDOT TAP website. We got the TAP legislation and guidance, which is really coming from our good folks from FHWA, Federal Highway Administration. We got the current application is online. I think there might have been a few applications currently submitted. I'm not 100% certain. We'll go over that in detail as well. And then there's the Transportation Alternatives Data Exchange. Now that's just a running list. That's run through the Rails to Trails Conservancy, but you can see at least what's reported under the Transportation Alternatives Program, I think dating back since 1994. I don't know if it's the most comprehensive list, whether or not everything was included, but you'll get an idea, at least within Delaware, all the transportation alternatives projects throughout the state of Delaware. So Federal Highways also put on with the guidance, with the TAP guidance in June 1st, 2022. That's still relatively accurate. So if we don't bore you to death or we don't enlighten you with everything, you can go to Federal Highways, and they also put on the guidance for the TAP qualifications and eligibility and funding and so forth. So again, that webinar guidance is there. There's a passcode, which I provided for you there. And then also, if our good friends at WillMapGo, our partners there, which are going to be authorizing most, if not the Newcastle County projects, the website is there. And Heather Dunnigan is still active within WillMapGo, and I believe she's probably online, right, Heather? Okay, she's probably, okay.
I'm here.
So again, we'll go over things. We'll give you an opportunity to say anything, but we know at least from the TAP applications for those in Newcastle County, they first get vetted or sent to WillMapGo for their review. So Heather's online, so definitely, she wanted to chime in. We'll give her an opportunity, or during the Q&A, if there's an answer that we can't address, maybe Heather can. All right, next.
Just so people know, this presentation is available online.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of links here on this page. We don't expect you to screenshot it and then try to find it. So those are active links. If you go to the TAP website, you can get the presentation and then follow these links directly to them. Here we go.
Hold on, we're trying to go to the next
It's working with one.
slide.
I advanced it before.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So like all DelDOT projects or workshops, we have to put down our excellence in transportation, kind of our mission. every trip, every mode, every dollar, everyone. In addition, we also need to list, since safety is probably one of our number one priority, we list down there. Now, we're supposed to update it every 2 weeks or so, but I thought this was pretty good because it gave a 2024, 2023, and 2022 fatalities. And again, just a note, there was a slight tick increase between 2023 and 24 with the pedestrian fatalities, just up a little bit from 32 this past year, 2024, and 28 in 2023. But, obviously we're working towards zero tolerance or zero deaths. So, all right, some background on the TAP funding. So this is where I got most of the information from FHWA and our finance folks. Most of it is FY24, and I know we're in FY25, but I can tell you that FY25 is very similar to 24. There might be a tick increase in terms of the federal participation. But just to give, basic background on the transportation alternatives funding, the projects are awarded or submitted on a competitive basis. For Delaware, we receive, at least in FY24, and again, that number might have been a little bit higher in FY25, was $6.3 million from feds. 905 is set aside for the recreational trails, which is administered and managed by our folks from DenRex Parks and Recreation. So basically that gives us a net of about $5.4 million per fiscal year under TAP. And there's also about $695,000 that is state funded contributing into our TAP program. Within the TAP program, there is a 20% sponsor contributing, which is a non-federal match. We'll probably go into that a little bit more as well. And then within the funding, 5.4 million and the 695, just so folks know, like the way the TAP program is set up is, I mentioned WMAPCO. So WMAPCO tells us, I'm going to say tells us, but they have the right or authority to work with the TAP funding program to tell us approximately where $1.6 million is determined. And again, a lot of these population spendings is according to FHWA and population zones. So our folks from WMAPCO and Newcastle County projects are first vetted. And again, like 1.6 out of the total out of our fiscal year program, WMAPCO requests us in certain areas to fund these projects or look into these projects, assuming that they're eligible TAP projects and eligible sponsors. So again, there's approximately $408,000 in different population zones. That's 50,000 to 200 throughout the state. And then the sub allocations again, 5,000 to 50,000, 630,000 or so. And then areas under 5,000, approximately 577,000. So out of the total amount, as mentioned, WMAPCO kind of advises us where the money should be spent for Newcastle County is about 59%. So that leaves 41% is flex statewide. And then there is $200,000 provided to the Federal Transit Administration per fiscal year. So who can apply for TAP under funding? So in case you don't know, again, a lot of this is all dictated from the guidance that's provided, but we'll just go over them. Local governments, a city, a county, or state agency, a regional transportation authority or transit agency, such as DART, a natural resource agency or public land agency, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, our state DenRec Fish and Wildlife, local or agriculture or forest agencies. A school district, educational facility or school, it can be nonprofit or private. But again, what's being proposed must benefit the general public and not necessarily the school itself. A tribal government, I don't think we have any formally recognized tribes. I know we have the tribes, but not formally recognized, at least federally recognized tribes in Delaware. But again, a tribal government is eligible. an MPO. This is our folks at Dover Kent MPO, as well as Salisbury Wycomico. They are welcome to apply. Again, the match has to come from a non-federal source. So Wilmapco does not apply, but they actually receive the applications in Newcastle County and review them and then indicate to us what projects are more favorable to fund, at least within Newcastle County. Nonprofits, that was newly added in 2022. Again, we're going to suggest if a nonprofit is leading the application, that they probably want to partner with someone like a municipality or a city or the county, just to make sure that, everything is kind of kosher with the application itself, because again, there might be maintenance obligations as well as funding. Local government or regional entities responsible or with oversight of transportation and recreational trails. We kind of indicated that before. And then a state DOT, which is DelDOT, at the request of an entity listed above. Now, again, we got to have like good reason for that. Why are you requesting DelDOT to apply on behalf of you? So again, we want to look for that in the application. Again, you're welcome to call us beforehand, before the 14th, to talk to us about that. So I want to hand it over to Kelly, which will continue.
All right, so I'm going to cover what projects are eligible and how to fill out the forms coming up, and then we'll get into some more specific examples after I talk. So this is just the general overview. So our eligible projects include, but are not limited to, so be creative in your applications. Construction of both on and off-road trail facilities that are specialized for pedestrians and or bicyclists. Safe routes for non-drivers, so anybody not operating a motor vehicle, including children, older adults, and individuals with disabilities. So really focusing on folks not in a car or can't drive. Construction of turnouts, overlooks, or viewing areas, and these are for maybe tourism in your community, especially on our Delaware byways. Also conversion and use of abandoned railroad corridors for trails, so that rails to trails, thinking of changing over the use there. Then also community improvement activities, which can include removal of unsightly outdoor advertising or investing in historic preservation, so you have a good viewing corridor as you're traveling along some of these non-motorized corridors, or vegetation management to control, what might be overgrowing into your path of travel or obscuring your view along the way as you need a safe route to go down. Things that we can also address in your project include pollution prevention. So things that might help abate excessive stormwater runoff, and helping to manage that stormwater so it doesn't adversely impact the environment with your project. Maybe putting in some things along the trail or your pathway or your sidewalk that would decrease wildlife mortality, provide safe crossings for them along your project, or even to put back together some of the habitat that has already been there in the construction of your project. We also accept applicants for the Safe Routes to Schools program, which helps children walk safely to school on safe crosswalks and have safe crossings, and clear ways that they can cross at medians and things like that. So we do have a different application form if you haven't applied in the past round. This is actually the second year that we've been using this one. So it's not brand new, but it's still pretty new. So be sure to read all of this form. The instructions are a couple pages, so it is a lot to read through, but I think it really goes through all the details that you might have questions about. So please read that before you start applying. The forms don't require too much detailed information, but this will really tell you what you want to write in and cover everything that we've really included in this presentation on the paper in Word form. So it'll talk you through what eligible activities there are again, the eligible project sponsors, the application process, and what Mike was saying earlier about how Newcastle County needs to go through a little MAPCO versus us in Kent, Sussex. It reviews how we rank projects and score things. And then the questions that it'll ask you to write out, so we know what your project is about, is going to be, the basics, your contact information, the partners that you want to work with, or other contacts that you want us to include on any communications with you. So everybody's informed about the process as we go through with the selection. A short description of your project. Please include relevant maps or photos of the area. Pictures say 1,000 words. It's much easier to include that. So we'd love to see photos or maps of the exact locations that you want these projects at. It really helps us to just, hone in on what you want to do very quickly. The description of the qualifying activities. Why is this a good project? How does it qualify? What programs does it qualify for? Is it a safe routes to school or a byway project, or is it a sidewalk project? The different stages of the project that you might need to do. So is it a grand master plan, or is it needing to do the, designing and engineering of it, or are we going to just have most of the things ready for construction at that point? And maybe we need to look through some things. We'd also need to know that you're signing on officially as a project sponsor, and that you will take on some of the match and funding and responsibility for the project after it's completed, and be ready to take on the maintenance of it after we complete the project and put it in place. Go ahead. So just to reiterate the qualifications here, your project must have a connection to public use, and it must connect to our transportation services. So it can't be like some offsite thing that's never going to connect to the community, or only serve like a private business entity. You need to have that community relationship of how folks get to where they want to go. We do need a 20% financial sponsor match that is coming from non-federal dollars. That could be state dollars, it could be a community source, nonprofit, municipal funding, and that needs to go into the project for the PE and design phase. The construction phase of these projects are also 20%. And we do cap our whole project funding at $1.5 million. That top limit does come up pretty quick with some of our projects. So sometimes, things might overflow and be a little bit more expensive than we think about, but we cannot provide any additional funds than our 80%. And sometimes project sponsors have to overmatch by a little bit, so going up into 25% of their match to cover the costs that might come up there. We really don't want to overrun things because that gets very complicated for everyone. I know, everybody wants to save their money, so we do need very well scoped out projects that are not going to run up against that. We'll also be reaching out to you to do an agreement between our Department of Transportation and your sponsorship entity. So we know everything's in place and legal, and we all share our responsibilities. So we do ask you to sign those agreements and return those in a timely fashion, because we can't go to the next stages of engineering or constructing the project without those in place. Most of the time, we are able to cover any beginning planning phases of your project. So the concept development, where we go to the community and say, what would you like to see here if you could have a wonderful project put in by the TAP program? So those, most of the time, we are able to do those studies for you with our state money and the federal money. The other note that we want to put in there is, because we have that cap at the $1.5 million, we are specifically doing community level projects, not major transportation capital projects that would require more than $1.5 million or several phases to complete. So we're not looking to do one block that would be $1.5 million and then put you in the queue for another block that would be another $1.5 million. We just want the one standalone project. If you were to do a bigger design, that's a different section of our Department of Transportation that you would need to work with, or we would send you on to. So if we get a big project from some of the applications here, we might send you onward and say, we can't handle this. This is not our specialty. Please see a different section of the Department of Transportation. We do strongly discourage sponsor administered projects. We like to take care of things in-house because we know the routes that we have to take to get all the dollars lined up, to get all the permitting done, to work with the utilities. Things just get a little crazy when we rely on, others to take care of that, because we do have the skill set and the contacts here and the processes set up here at the Department of Transportation to handle your project. So we really want to do that ourselves to expedite things and make sure everything gets done the correct way, so we don't have to go back or lose any money because something wasn't done right. Like Mike said earlier, if you're from Newcastle County, please submit your application to WMAPCO. If you submit it to us, you can also CC us on that as well, just so we have it, but it really does need to go to them. And then as a benefit, if you have a Safe Route to Schools project, because we have extra funding for those special projects that are really the most important ones to get kids safely to school, we don't require you to match the engineering phases or the planning phases of that. Until we get to the construction phase, then you would have to provide some match. So that's a little bit of a cost savings and incentives to you as the sponsor to do those projects to help kids be able to walk and bike to school. So I'll try to go through this a little quickly here. So just to know, any utility, drainage, or right-of-way conflicts that might be problematic, driving up costs, we want to watch out for. We do not have funding to buy easements or property in our program. So normally we ask for donations from the sponsor or community members if we need to go through someone's private property or the city or municipality property or park property. So watch out for that. All maintenance goes back over to the sponsor and liability after we are done. Another note is states or the TAP program may not use the TE funds to finance normal environmental mitigation work that's eligible under the regular federal aid highway program. So reach out to us if you want to talk about that a little bit more and have those details. We're going to rank your project against the other ones that come in with a submission, and we'll prioritize them based on need and qualifications. Please include any letters of support from your community or the adjacent property members that might be affected by this property. We'd love to have the community support there. We don't want you to railroad this through. This is projects to benefit your community and that are not benefiting the community, and what is the application for them. If you're working with partners on this application, please indicate who's going to be the actual sponsor and provide that match and receive the funding, just so we know who to line up for the finances. And then please show us what kind of public support you might already have out there. Have you had conversations in municipal meetings? What kind of other discussions have you had? Do you have a resolution? And where is this project at in its formation stages? Do you have funding already allocated for this and you're just asking for some extra help to get it done? Please demonstrate that you've done some of that homework and put some things together, so we're not just knowing that this is a pipe dream or starting from scratch. I'd like to see a little bit of that journey that you've taken already to get folks on board from your community, and that you're ready and prepared to put in this project into place.
All right, we'll turn over a couple of examples to Tom.
Okay, so we got some really good project examples here. The first one is the town of Hartley. So we did some sidewalks, link connections, connecting two sidewalk segments that weren't initially connected, some crossings, crosswalks, and everything was ADA compliant. So this is a really good example. The design was fairly extensive. Our design phase can take anywhere from 18 months to 2 years to get all the necessary approvals, environmental, utility approval, right-of-way acquisition and approval. So this is a good example of a very good sidewalk here. It really helped out the community. So this is one that can be referenced for future projects. Now, Slaughter Beach Overlook, look how beautiful this looks. So this is really, especially on a nice summer day. It's cold today, but just imagine it's nice and sunny and warm, a beach day. We had parking here. We had crossing and crosswalks to get to the trail. We had a kiosk. And then interpretive panels, informative panels, and then ADA accessible boardwalk and bike rack. So this basically was multimodal. Pedestrians, bikers, everyone can enjoy it. You could drive there and park in the new parking lot. And then you have a scenic overlook. It's really good for recreation. So this is another great example in Slaughter Beach. The town of South Bethany, Anchorage Pond, and multimodal. It kind of feels like Anchorage out there today, so this is a good example. It's like 12 degrees out, but so this is on Route 1, South Bethany Beach, near Sea Colony. We did some wetland and wet pond improvements, shared use path improvements, and we helped runoff, flooding, and water quality improvements there. So it basically looked at drainage features and also a shared use path. So this had everything. It really improved the community. This was a great project to work on. Okay, Delaware Avenue in Wilmington. So this was rain garden. So it's aesthetically pleasing. You have a beautiful landscaped area. Helps with runoff. When you have a rain event, a large rain event, it helps with runoff. It makes the community look beautiful. Biofiltration measures were implemented. Bump outs at pedestrian crossings, so that calmed the traffic there to slow down the traffic to make it easier for pedestrians to cross. And we had a nice brick styling, so it was just a very nice project to reference in Wilmington. So the town of Ocean View, so we had permeable sidewalks. So that basically means when it rains, the water won't pond on the sidewalk, it infiltrates. So this is a really good example. This is kind of a unique sidewalk. Not all sidewalks are permeable. So this is something unique here. And then we also addressed the ADA concerns, made everything ADA compliant, so everyone can enjoy the facility in Ocean View. And then the final example here, it's a Safe Routes to School project, Downs Elementary in the city of Newark. We did mid-block crossings, striping, the striping that way the cars know to stay in their lanes, pedestrian striping, and warning signage so that when kids are present, people know to slow down and it's safe for the kids to cross and go to school. So these are all really good examples to reference and give you some ideas of what you may want to apply for. And with that, I will turn it over to Chip.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, I'm going to go over some of the project selection factors. So to give you guys an idea of what we're looking for and what ranks projects higher. So one of the big ones is transportation equity. So looking at the disadvantaged communities, does it serve them and how so? Safety improvements, of course. Is there a history of pedestrian or cycle crashes? A lot of close calls, even just unsafe conditions. Are we changing that, improving that? ADA improvements. Now this one's kind of obvious. Everything we're going to do is going to be ADA compliant. It has to be by law because we're spending federal money. But if it's something where the ADA is currently completely out of compliance, it's certainly a consideration that we'd be improving. The history of requests. If there's a history in the area or a specific project from the community or the residents, we'd like to see that. And certainly if it complements the state strategies for spending or our level of investment areas, if you're not sure whether you're in one of those level of investment areas, you can definitely check with us or check online. Or if you're not sure what the state strategies are, we can definitely help with that. Connection links or provides continuation of bike lanes, shared use paths, or sidewalks. So how this project kind of integrates with the bike ped network around it be something we're looking at. If it connects to a larger and just creates a larger network, that's definitely a benefit. And proximity or improved access to bus stops in the project area, it's definitely a factor for getting everybody who doesn't have a car, where they need to go. There you go. All the other things that, we want to get people to and from. So the origins and the destinations, community centers, libraries, elementary, middle, high schools, colleges, parks, greenways. If it connects to that or gets you close to that, and that's definitely a benefit. So point those out if those are in your project area. One of the big things is that this is an enhancement effort and not a replacement or maintenance effort. So just because your sidewalk's crumbling doesn't mean that it's necessarily a great tap project. That's really kind of a maintenance issue. You just want to fix the sidewalk. We want to make it, this is kind of a gray area because obviously fixing crumbling sidewalk is an enhancement, but we want to enhance it to make it greater than it ever was, right? If that makes sense. Connections are ranking for improvement under the level of bike stress or pedestrian accessibility. Again, you might not know this, but if you're not sure, you can check with us. Usually it's pretty obvious, like level of bike stress is really just how scary is it to ride a bike on a road, right? Does it have separated bike lanes or a shared use path next to it? Or is it just, you're kind of winging it in a 3-foot shoulder with 45-mile-an-hour cars going by? Level of purposeful reduction in air pollution, wildlife mortality, or existing water runoff treatment. We kind of went over this with some of the project examples and Sea Colony. So just let us know if there's elements in that area. And the level of improvement for terrestrial or aquatic habitat connectivity. If you've got this, definitely let us know. This is kind of a rare one. like the turtle tunnels or,
Yeah, we haven't had too many tap projects over the years that specifically are custom towards the very last bullet there.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you got one of those, we'd definitely be interested.
But it is a qualifying activity.
Right. So just a handful of other things that we do kind of take into consideration. The particular stage or phase of the project development. Is this starting, like Kelly mentioned, like starting from scratch, or are you guys have you've talked with the community, you have a little bit of a concept ready to go. You're kind of just looking to hone that and develop it and get plans built, or do you have plans and you say, hey, this is a TAP project, let's just see if we can get construction funding? That'd be great. Is it adjacent or near a previous TAP project? Something we'll consider as a multi-phase TAP project. The relation to the Safe Routes to School program, again, that's been mentioned before. If there's a school that's interested in getting more kids walking and biking or getting them to do so more safely, that's a strong consideration, and there's a good possibility that we'll cover the PE design effort without match. And the relation to the Delaware Byways program. If you're on a byway, I bet you know it. So certainly mention that. And if it's an enhancement to the byway, we'll definitely take that into consideration. Population category areas, we kind of went over that in the beginning, different population zones. Availability of funding or overmatch needs. We're more likely to take on a project where funding has been demonstrated and available versus someone who says, I don't know where the match is coming from. But we're definitely willing to work with you on those things. There's always options. It's just a consideration. Documented, we've mentioned this before too, documented community acceptance. Have the property owners, are the property owners aware of this plan? The last thing we want to do is fund a project and start getting out there and doing a public workshop and realizing that none of the neighbors actually want to see anything changed. So that's something we're definitely going to consider. The complexity of the maintenance. Again, generally the maintenance goes back to the sponsor or whoever was responsible for maintenance to begin with. But we want to make sure that the that entity has the ability to maintain the project once we're done constructing it. And of course, like constructability, we've mentioned like moving utilities, things like that. I mean, just moving like one utility pole can blow the budget out of proportion. So if it's going to require like moving a bunch of culverts and drainage and utilities and poles, that's a strong consideration, just because we know that drives up cost and that takes away from the good stuff that we're actually trying to get done, which is the bike ped heavy stuff. Tourism, ecotourism efforts towards preservation promotion. Again, this is kind of like on the byway into things, but it could definitely work for a town or whomever. You know, having good networks for bike peds, good for everybody. And relationship to an existing capital project. So a lot of times there's a larger project coming through, and maybe a TAP project could complement it just by connecting it to an adjacent community or, you know, some facilities, like we mentioned, libraries and schools and things like that. It's kind of more of the same. Obviously, some of this stuff is quantitative. You know, what's the population zone? That's a hard and fast number. Other stuff's a little bit more qualitative. So, and efforts are based on past DelDOT experience with TAP or Transportation Alternatives Program and the nature of the project proposal. Proposed project submissions are given a technical score and assessment write-up. Again, we mentioned the readiness of the project. That includes like the sponsor's ability to provide match and actually get moving on the project. You know, sometimes if you've got, you know, a town will have a project and then they're going to say, well, once we're done with this, you know, we'd like to do this TAP project. Well, if we don't really have a firm timeline of when the first project's going to get done, we might put things on hold, even if it qualifies. Just say, let us know when you're actually ready. And all these applications may be shared, probably will be shared with the other people in DelDOT, and of course the MPOs, that if they're in an MPO area, and federal highways.
So hold on for a second. Before Tom, go to the next one, if you don't mind.
Yep.
So we'll just go over that second bullet, since I know Chip went over a lot of information in terms of what we're looking for, what are good candidates, et cetera. But I just wanted to, hopefully, Heather, you're still online. Again, when we went through this application process and we realized that the WMAPCO, at least for Newcastle County type projects, are first vetted by, you know, your agency. But we just wanted to give you an opportunity to chime in towards your review process, at least within Newcastle County. So anything you want to add or share or differ then?
Thank you. So similar to DelDOT, we do have a project prioritization process, and you can find that on the WMAPCO website, which is linked there. It's similar to DelDOT's. It is mostly quantitative. So we're looking at kind of walkability distance to things like transit stops, schools, other community destinations. We're also looking at crash statistics, whether it's completing a connection between two existing projects, environmental justice areas, and a whole host of other criteria. So we'll do our internal project prioritization, then we do bring the applications for review to our committees. So it'll go through a committee process where our non-motorized transportation working group, our technical advisory committee, provide feedback on the projects and the scoring. And then DelDOT, our council will approve the project prioritization, at which point we submit it to DelDOT for their final selection of projects.
All right, so that kind of addresses at least the second bullet in this slide here. So
Yep, I will add on the 30 to 45 day review, just because some of our committees don't meet that often. So the non-motorized committee and the council only meet every other month. The 30 to 45 day review is a little tight for us, so it will take a bit longer for us to kind of get our feed back into DelDOT. So it might slow down that for the rest of decision-making too, since some of the DelDOT decision-making, I think, hinges on our project prioritization submissions.
All right, so that's a good point. Again, we'll be very optimistic to say 30 to 45 days, but we realize at least with the gamut of TAP projects, we are waiting for Will Matco's recommendations on the Newcastle County list. And then we can also take that same list and include it as, we'll say, undetermined projects or, statewide, as well as those projects within Kent and Sussex County. So again, we'll try and work our fastest based on staff time, the number of applications, et cetera. So just the reality check behind things. So, but I don't know. So Tom's going to finish the slide here. I guess we kind of covered the first two bullets.
So the application was submitted. Now what happens? So applications are due by February 14th, after which we anticipate 30 to 45 days for review before we notify an award. Newcastle County projects go through Will Matco, and Kent and Sussex, DelDOT will rank. Now, you'll receive correspondence on why or why not your submission was approved or not approved. We may contact you during the review process if we have any questions. And then we might also look at phases of the project. If you submit a very large project, keep in mind we have that $1.5 million limit for construction that we like to keep it under. If it's a very large submission, we might look at doing phases. We break it out into different phases so that we can keep it under that cap. So those are things that we look at. And again, February 15th is the big day, and after which we will be reviewing and we will notify everyone that applied.
Okay. All right, so getting projects underway. So let's just assume the Will Matco, the DelDOT process, you've been notified. I will say, if you weren't awarded, we encourage folks to reapply the next time we do a call for applications, just as a encouragement towards things. Again, we only have a limited amount of funds and budget towards things, certain amount of projects and so forth. So if it doesn't get approved the first time, try again. So, just or rethink the project, or we'll suggest to you other ways to, get a more favorable application. So nevertheless, so let me just go over these submissions again. The projects could be put on a reserve list until later. Again, there's only so much time and effort that we have with everything. And again, one of the things that we need to take a look at is our budget. And we will start projects normally within a couple months for the planning phase, assuming that that's the very first effort. A lot of that does not require initial 20% match, at least the planning or feasibility phase. But essentially, we anticipate a project to either be a feasibility study or to continue, far well knowing that we would like to see design as well as construction efforts. So I know that we have online some of our open-end consultants that work with our DelDOT TAP program. And again, they are online, they're listening. I appreciate your time and effort in participating. So we have a number of design, engineering, and planning firms that we have set up and that we use or will utilize for the TAP. I think we'll get to the question, I think, proposed by Amy when we get to the Q&A, but we really kind of discourage the option of the applicant saying, well, I want to use this firm. Well, if you get awarded, you better be prepared to wait quite some time. And there's no guarantee, because under the state procurement we have to go through an RFP, RFQ in order to design or at least authorize another consultant besides our open ends. So there's no guarantee to say, I want to use XYZ consultant, that XYZ consultant is going to be the selected firm out of that initial RFP, RFQ request, which has to go through the state of Delaware procurement rules. So, but again, we do have a lot of other engineering planning firms that work within the department, so we can use other agreements depending upon the timing and available cap funds. So just to let you know, it's possible, but it's very complex and there's no guarantee to all of a sudden say, I would like to use XYZ firm. So again, the next stages, we mentioned the 20% match. Typically, it's non-federal as well, so you can't use a federal grant to fund your 20% match.
And Mike, I just want to address Amy Marasco's question up here. She asked specifically about this. She
Yep.
said, what are our options for match in addition to dollars? Does staff time, volunteer time, donated landscaping products count?
So we'll get into that. How about if we get into that after? We're almost
Okay,
done,
wanna get
but
done
hold
then?
on, Amy. Well, that'll be the very first question that we'll address. So again, our DelDOT award process is basically a turnkey operation. You work with us as a partner, since there are state and federal requirements that sometimes do get very complex. Again, we have tried some sponsor authorization or sponsored administered. They are not good examples to talk about, which we won't talk about, at least in this presentation. So again, it is much easier to work through DelDOT and its agreements with our open-end consultants. So group effort here. We want to say thank you so far and looking forward to submissions. And again, folks can contact us at any time. So again, there's our information, the very first slide. Again, they're all live links and so forth. So I guess at this point, it took about 50 minutes, but we'll address Amy's question.
And then after that, maybe folks can just come off mute and stuff. But yeah, go ahead and address that one, Mike.
All right, so I'll just read Amy's question just in case everyone is not going through the chat and, we're going through a reasoning behind everything without really, understanding the question. Her question is, what are our options for match in addition to dollars? Staff time, volunteer time, donated landscaping products? So we actually are looking into that example right now with one of our TAP projects. There is an eligibility for, we'll say, in-kind donation, but there are specific federal sharding or tracking or maximum funding that you're allowed to keep track of. We're looking into that. If there's a number of things, for instance, we wanted to donate, or the sponsor wanted to donate, landscaping products in this case. Again, we have to look into that. I would not say it's not a guarantee just yet, but yes, it is possible that those measures could be used as part of your 20% match.
I'd answer it, the answer is it's possible, but it's less preferred. I mean, it's really a lot easier to just have the 20% dollar to dollar.
Did that hopefully address Amy's question? I'll presume it could. So hold on. So what's our next question?
Staff time. But like administrative staff time wouldn't.
Yeah, I guess it would all depend exactly what your staff time is.
And it ultimately comes down, it ends up being a kind of a question for the federal highways.
There's definitely tracking forms that need to be submitted as part of it. So it's not like you can submit your timesheet and then say, well, I threw 10 hours into it and I, get $40 an hour. So that's $400 of match. All right.
There's a question up there.
I don't know which one came first or second.
Could CEPF grant funds be used?
CEPF grant, I'll read it.
Community Environmental Project Fund.
Could CEPF grant funds be used for TAP funding? We received a $25,000 grant from CEPF It just kind of disappeared.
From CEPF for 2025, and one of the elements of the projects we had planned to fund is possibly going to be covered by the Conservation District. So we will be able to free up those funds for repurposing. They can check with CEPF, but wanted to ask if that's something we've seen in the past, and that's for the Community Environmental Project Fund.
I don't think we've
So,
seen
Drew, if you want to come off mute, we can chat with us about it.
I guess, yeah, the one key thing is, did it originate from the federal government? That's probably the key here.
So this funding is through the state of Delaware, and my name's Drew. I'm a project manager with the Islamic Society of Delaware, and we are going to be putting in a TAP program request. And I know that 20% has to be funded from outside federal, and we're looking at different options for that. I think the initial submission will be okay, but down the line to actually pay for all the improvements, we'll be trying to tap into all different sources to help with that. And we did receive a grant through the state of Delaware. It's from the Community Environmental Project Fund. So this has to do with expanding recreational access for people. And so, wanted to check in on this. If some of that funding might be able to be repurposed, we would maybe use it. And then my other just general question is, the northern part of Salem Church Road has undergone a study, and there's a lot of effort going into there. We're going to submit a TAP proposal about our little section. And my question was, there's a large DelDOT parcel in the woods there. And I know DelDOT on some of the meetings has put the possibility of a trail system happening. So my question was, should we do like two distinct proposals, one for the corridor with sidewalks, crosswalks, and turn lanes, and then another one separate to, kind of exploring that forested area and possibilities to connect that to the byways or the East Coast Greenway. I know that area is nestled right into a lot of the byways that I'm seeing on this map. And so just wanted to get your thoughts on, would we do something separate for the road and then something separate for the recreational side?
All right, so here's my thought on that. And again, other staff can chime in on it. Drew, I would submit everything all at once, because again, we don't know how much it's going to cost. And obviously the feasibility would probably be the one thing that is really best to be known in terms of breaking out different sections. So then you can determine that at the next stage about how much money we potentially have to program those areas. Maybe one's higher priority than another. Because I guess to try and capture everything all at once, it could be a much larger, substantial project outside the realm of TAP. Or we just come back to you to say, we can only do this trail right now at this phase right now. And you'd have to come back in the future and then finish it under TAP or submit it, work through WMATCO and DelDOT as more of a capital transportation improvement type project. So again, I would just encourage you to submit everything and to really emphasize that we want a feasibility to determine what components could be broken out into future TAP stages. And again, or other funding measures. So the funding measure that you indicate, that would qualify as a match. Just to let folks know in the audience, our legislative community transportation funds, they're state funds, so they are also eligible as part of the 20% match. I can tell you over the years, the legislators have been very supportive with our program, and they typically contribute towards the 20% match.
I would say with the CEPF, just double check with DENREC that it's eligible to be used for us, right? So it's got to work both, that they have to allow it to be used as match or whatever. But if it's state funds and not federal, as long as DENREC's not a pass through for federal funds, we should be
Got
all
it. And yeah, we were going to structure the proposal to have the most impactful changes happening first. So things that would impact safety and, access and things like that. Uh, we have those slides where there's all these different qualifiers, all these different things that would tap into. And so we were going to basically put the most impactful things to the wider community first, and then, granular stuff later that might be fun to have, like bike trails and things like that.
Yeah, that's everybody could be doing it, just kind of letting us know what your priorities are. It's like, hey, we really need this connection, and this bike lane, but if there's room in the budget, we'd also like to have some benches and maybe some tree plantings or things like that. Whatever the priority is. Definitely.
The Salem Church Road corridor study results were very helpful in understanding the level of urgency, especially on the north part of Salem Church Road. So my last question was just, should we be including as much data as possible in our presentation to make it appealing, or should we leave it to the local government and DelDOT to tap into all those resources? Because we have a lot of those resources, but we just may not have everything. I just wanted to know how much data should be going into these proposals.
I'm going to just say, use your discretion towards things. You don't have to attach every single document. If there's like a link already with additional data information, just submit the link. If it's electronic or something like that, rather than submit everything and then it's 100 pages long because we have all these attachments. Like, let us take a look at it. I don't know, Heather, if you might feel different, since I think it's going through WMATCO first.
No, I agree with your view on that one.
Okay. I just say, use your discretion towards things. And again, if you just want to include electronic links as part of the data, then please do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. And we are familiar, Drew. Again, at least I got bombarded with several emails. So at least I'm familiar with the location.
Yeah, we've made a lot of traffic changes in the past 6 months to improve pedestrian safety, and it's resulted in a lot of changes with the traffic flow for the better. So the organization has already taken a lot of steps to try to reduce the traffic, and now that we are doing everything we can, we're going to try to improve the roadway officially through DelDOT in the TAP program. So it's really exciting, and I really appreciate all the support from DelDOT so far that we've received.
Okay.
I can read the next question.
Okay.
Okay, this is another one from Amy Marasco. She said, I'm familiar with the VDOT TAP administration. In that state, cities were allowed to go out with an RFP approved by VDOT so we could procure engineering services. Are you saying in DelDOT that if we are awarded a TAP grant, that you assign our city an engineering firm to complete design, construction, management, and inspection? Yes.
For the most part, yep.
Yeah, we're a little different than most states. There is another couple states that do it similar to us, but yeah, we have our set of design firms that we work with. Maybe we get lucky and then you guys want to use the same people that we already have on board. That's always a thing, but yeah, no, we do the RFP and get the engineers, get the design consultants.
And her follow-up is, what role do you see for our city staff in managing this?
I'll take that. Yeah, it's it doesn't require a whole lot. We've got continued communication as the project develops. If we're doing a concept plan, certainly we'll have a lot of back and forth on what we're trying to develop, and we'll present you with a draft plan, make revisions. We would definitely look for the city to help us host a public workshop, get the word out, those sorts of things.
Or in addition, we'd work with the city staff in terms of preparing any updates to city council. Either one of us would be doing that, or we'd work with our consultant groups that we have with our agreements to help share that information or updates. I mean, it could be a phone call. could be a city council meeting, whatever it is. I mean, again, there's only so much that we have within the budget that we're not really updating every single month to city council unless there's significant complexities behind a project where we do need to update the sponsor.
And I'd also add that you're a liaison to the community. So we'd ask you to provide, the contact info or help get the stakeholders in your community to the table if we need to work with them on different aspects of the project. So we're gonna turn it back over to you to help us build that community support and engagement around the project.
Yeah, and then when it comes to construction, we just have to make sure that we'll have you reviewing plans. So we go through a whole series of plans that get, revisions as it goes. We would like you to review those in the 30 days offered and then get back to us with any issues you might see in terms of operations for the city, impacts to utilities, things like that. And then, of course, signing the agreement at the end or before we go to construction. You're basically going to be taking on whatever facilities are built and maintaining them after we're done with construction. You also asked about sharing the primary evaluation criteria, and someone had previously asked, they came in late and missed something as well, but Kelly added the TAP website to the chat, I think a few entries up. This presentation is available on the TAP website, and all the links that you see on the slides or you saw on the slides are live. So if you pull the presentation from the website, you'll be able to just utilize those links. And again, if you have any questions about anything that's maybe not clear from the presentation or what you heard today, just let us know.
So I would just add to that, in terms of the evaluation criteria, we probably rank safety as probably there's not a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the one gets the most points and so forth. But public safety is probably, or pedestrian or bicycle safety is probably the number one thing that we might have a bias towards giving a better favorable rank. And again, we're looking at it from a funding perspective and a population to disperse those dollars in those population zones. So, a lot of projects may be credible, but if there's like 5 projects in one area where we need to spread out the project, unfortunately, it's the way that the TAP program is set up. We kind of have to spread it around.
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of safety, accessibility, and then like network connectivity. Those are kind of a top 3 for us.
Any other questions? We'll have this recording online shortly as well. You can always review the recording too.
So any question, I'll give Heather any opportunities, or if Rebecca Liederbaum from FHWA is online, is there anything that you wish to add?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for being here today. Again, anyone within Newcastle County, you can feel free to reach out to me with any additional questions beyond what you have for DelDOT. I'm also always happy to talk through your ideas for TAP applications, review drafts of it as you're going along. So just feel free to keep in touch. So best support you.
Thanks, Heather.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. If Federal Highways is online, is there anything to potentially add or, I guess, dispute what we might have said? If Rebecca's still online? If not, we'll say we did an excellent 100%,
Yeah,
no questions asked
yeah.
overview towards
She's
things.
not worried, she left.
Okay. All right.
One more question came in. Is this regularly occurring funding each year?
So I'm going to say we're going to try to do it as best as possible. So go to the next slide. So again, these are publicly available. We did post this too. Go to the next slide if you don't mind.
Share again.
Okay, hold on, we're gonna do a share.
There we go. We were on camera.
So our project is kind of, our program is kind of robust right now. So again, full disclosure here, this is our current project list of where we are. We just try to give information because, and then you can go to the next page too. Again, these are the slides for public availability. So there is one typo on the red there. Uncertainty. Oh, no, it's incorrect on the website, but we corrected it here for the presentation. There was a typo in the red. Again, this is our program. We got approximately 20 or 22 projects if you consider our scenic byways part of the TAP, which, you know, more or less they're a subset of the TAP program, even though it's a funding, different mechanism of a funding source. But these are some of the projects. Now go back to the first one of where we list on things. So we need to check everything in terms of available projects, where we are with scheduling for at least six through 13. 1 through 5 are pretty close to construction right now, or not final plans for construction. So again, we want to take a look at everything, and we will put out a notice for new calls of projects. If we do not have enough projects, or we need to spend money or utilize money for spending, probably later this year, we'll probably have to absorb everything this year. So I can't necessarily say yes or no, but we are going to post things when we need to have projects in the queue. So Ben, I don't know if I fully answered your question, but again, the intent is to try to do it every year, but again, it really depends how quickly we get these things started off and in the queue, and then based on scheduling with everything. Hope I answered your question as best as possible without being a government
I think
employee.
you answered it plenty. Yeah, I'd say we try to, but it's not always a guarantee.
I would accept that, yeah.
Yeah, his comments essentially, it's better to get a project in the pipeline to get funded in the future sometime. Yeah, it's fair.
Okay. Any other questions that you all have that we may or may not have covered?
If you think of anything else, please feel free to email us and we can set up a time to chat, or even just give us a call. We're around and happy to chat about this so we can get some good projects in.
All right, that took us about an hour and 10 minutes, so appreciate everyone's time and look forward, and give us a call or send us an email if there's any questions, or Heather as well.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Bye.